A little bit late getting this video out this year, but this basically started back in February when I started getting all my seeds together and got my seed order in, and got ready to start my seedlings for the year. Now, it's like the first year ever that's been nice outside that time of the year, so I found this giant bag of Miracle Grow at Costco, and it was time to get out these little planting trays and just kind of fill each one up with, I use the Miracle Grow. It seems to work the best for me. And I always start with these little containers, and then, once I see what germinates, I move it to the, the bigger containers, and it seems to work pretty good for me. So one thing, once you get hooked on gardening, you'll realize that you do the same thing every year. So the same thing happens over and over again. So there they are. I got the little containers full with potting soil and got my seeds out. Now I like to use this little plastic seed spreader that I found it at my local garden center, and it makes it easy for me to pick the seeds up. And I try to put about 5 of them in each pot with a tweezer, so I don't, so I can pull them apart later without damaging the roots. And this little tweezer and seed combination works out pretty good for me, and makes it easy so you don't have seeds all over the place. And the good thing is, once you you get the seeds in, there they are. The seeds are and it just pack the soil down a little bit. And then later I'll go back and add a little bit of water to them. But there you can see how easy it is to put the seeds back in the bag, the leftovers, and save them for next year. And there it is. Just put a little water in the containers. I try to label. I get these little popsicle sticks at my dollar store, and I put the name of each seed on each one, so I keep track of it. And there they are, just, put out, waiting for them to germinate. This year I decided, last year I saved some lavender seeds from my lavender plant, and I tried to plant some of them this year, and it just didn't work out. But and then it's time to bring up all these are just 20-ounce cups that I've been using for years to put my seedlings in. Once the seedlings germinate and they get 2 leaves on them, I go back through and I pick the healthy ones out, and I move them to these larger cups before they, so they can grow large without getting root bound. It's pretty, pretty easy job. I've got this. I use an old fork to dig them out with. It's easy to, get the root right straight down to the bottom of the container with it and pull it out without damaging it. Then I just fill the cup with potting soil and put the little sprout in it, and just pack a little bit more of the potting soil around it. And these are the final plants that will be going in the garden. And I find it's easier to do it this way. I've had better luck, and sometimes if you just start them in the cups and you put a couple seeds in, you don't know what's going to germinate. You don't know what's going to be healthy. So this way, I just try to, I usually wind up throwing away extra seedlings when I'm done. But this way seems to work good for me. So there they are, all the, starting to get them all transplanted, and that's when they've got the first 2 leaves on them. And at this point in time, I've got some of that Miracle Grow that you mix with a gallon of water, and I like to use that for the first couple of feedings to really get them started. So that's just I put in an old water bottle to make it easy to get on there. But there they are, all ready to be put onto the grow lights and take off. And there's the tomatoes from my garden this year. I think I got about 80. I cut back to about 80 or 85 plants, I think. And so now they just go under the grow light, and there they are in the beginning. I'm running out of room under my grow light stand, so I basically have them spread all over my dining area too. But in a couple of days you go back and you look at them, and they've started to grow and doubled in size just about. So everything looks good and looks healthy so far. And as I said, I ran out of room under my grow light, so I've got them spread all over, and I kind of switch them out day to day, different bins and stuff, just to try to make sure they have enough light. And there's that lavender I planted. Absolutely nothing germinated, so never try that again. So, a couple weeks later, they're starting to really look like tomato plants now. They're starting to branch out, and actually the house has started smelling like tomato plants now too, which is really, it's a great, smell for early spring. And here they are. I put them outside now once they got pretty tall, just to start hardening them off. This was about a month ago. After when you get a little bit warmer days, you got to put them out in some sunshine, and I leave them out at night if it's not going to be frost. If there's going to be frost, I'll bring them all in. But now I'm ready to start trying to till my garden. We've had an extremely rainy spring. We've had 15 inches of rain since March 1st this year, so everything is really extremely muddy, as you can pretty much see. I put those new tines on the tiller a couple weeks ago, and I must say that what an amazing difference it's making. I used to get like a spot in the middle that wasn't tilled properly, and it just didn't mix it up good, especially when you got into muddy situations like this. But the new tines really seem to make a big difference. The only thing you really have to watch out for is if it catches a rock or something, it will send the tiller flying. There, you just saw it a little bit. They'll just send it flying. But basically they were a real good investment to make, and they make tilling be a lot deeper and easier, I think. And this old tiller is just amazing. It just runs year after year. And there you can see how the dirt's kind of just balling up mud. It's really too wet to plant in yet, so what I'm doing is just loosening it up, and I'm going to let it sit and dry hopefully, and then I'll go over and till it again once it dries up a little bit, so it starts to get powdery instead of being little mud balls, which will actually suffocate the roots of the plants if you put them in it. So this is it doesn't take too long to till the garden. There it is on its own. This thing, if there was some way to put a remote control on it, you could almost sit back in a lounge chair and watch it till. It does such a good job. But like I said, it's just really too muddy right now to put anything in. So it's a late year for me. This is like the latest year I've ever gotten going with tomato plants. But you have to put up with the weather, so it's part of gardening. So there I got the big garden. I just went over what I could that what wasn't too muddy. And there you can see back there the rhubarb is coming up, and there's asparagus on the other side of it. So we probably got a couple 100 pounds of rhubarb already. And there's my pile of mulch from the garden last year, and a couple of sunflowers are popping up here and there. And I, the good thing about having a raised bed area is that they have good drainage. I put in a lot of gravel under them and stuff, and the dirt is all mostly compost and topsoil mixture. So there's good drainage, so I can, even if it's wet and rainy out, the boxes still are, you're able to plant in. So, this is just, I'm going to, first start by putting some plants in all these boxes. I got the weeds all cleaned out of them. For some reason I had a lot of weeds this year, and there's a muddy old tiller waiting to go away. So now another thing I had to do is, at the end of the season last year, I pushed all the mulch into a pile at the bottom of the garden compost. There you see the steam coming off of it. So what I got to do is I mix the mulch and the leaves together in the fall. So now what I got to do is take that pile, and I'm just moving it to another location a couple feet away and flipping it over so that it gets a good chance to compost a little bit better before putting it in the garden. And you can pretty much see how muddy it is there. It's just kind of a mess right now, but I just have to flip that and let that cook for another couple months, and then I'll be ready to start adding to the boxes in the garden. And there's my other compost pile behind there too for the garden scraps and stuff. So that one I'll be using for the next couple of years. So this is just another one of those jobs you got to do. You got to flip the compost every once in a while to get it working good when you do it like this. The bins I usually just let them sit for a couple of years. I'll use them, and they'll just keep, the level of them will just keep dropping, and then finally let them sit for a couple months and take the top off when you have all the compost there at the bottom of them. So now, the raised beds are fairly dry, so I'm going to start putting some of my first plants in, and these are just some of the eggplants that I started. So it's real nice using those 20-ounce cups, I find, because your plants don't get root bound, and there's no shock when you put them in. You just drop the whole thing right in, and you're not messing with the roots or anything. And you just poke a hole, drop it in, and then just put a stick in and tie it up. We have some pretty good winds in our area here, so I make sure that I tie all these little guys up right away. Otherwise, I've had them actually get blown over, broken, and leaves ripped off of them and stuff like that. About the worst thing that you want to hope that you don't get is a hailstorm at this point in time, because it can destroy these little plants. But other than that, usually I don't have any problems. So getting some of the eggplants in here, and we're definitely past the danger of frost, and I really should have my tomato plants in by now, but it's just too wet to even try to put them in. So there I got one box full of eggplants here, and then I got a couple more in another box, and a couple little mini jalapenos over there. Those are the tam jalapenos, and then I've got a couple leeches, and here I've got the shallots planted, and just planted a couple of red and white onions, and then this is just row after row of little carrots coming up right now. Then up by the house I got my strawberries, which half of them died this year for some reason. I got a bunch of boxes up here, and there's last year's parsley. It's going to go to seed soon, and there's some new parsley planted under it. And here you can see that we're really eating spinach now. That's taken off, and lettuce is a little bit late. There really wasn't that much sunshine, and I got it in late, so that'll be another week or two. And I got a couple more boxes down here with some kale and stuff like that, and some garlic and bok choy, and there's like 5 different types of radishes that we're eating now. So this early stuff is really getting going. There's my baby robins. They're 3 days old now. They're just starting to move and open their mouths and wait for mama to drop a worm in them. So they're doing well. And now I got another problem with these giant bees. They're eating holes in the wood. There they are on the overhang of the little roof over my door of my pole barn. These things are like about 1 inch long, and for some reason they've just started about 3 or 4 of them in there, and they've just eaten like half a dozen holes in the wood. You can see right there, they're like a perfectly round hole, and they just seem to eat it. So I think I'm gonna probably have to get out some snake shot pretty soon and see if I can take these guys out before they do too much damage. Never really seen them do it like that before, but it's pretty cool to watch them. But they really are damaging, and they are pretty big too. So there's my tomato plants, all overgrown, just waiting for the last thing to go in the garden. They're just waiting for it to dry up enough so I can put them in, and just get that part of it finished up with the tomatoes and everything else. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe.